So I'm Charles Carney, Prospect Avenue, Princeton. So I have to say that the presentation that Mr. Solov gave made it sound like the prevailing setback was the build 2 line plus or minus 2 feet. And if it's minus 2 feet plus infinity, it should say that.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you get a little closer to the microphone and put it down or something?
So the issue is, when I first read this, and at the last council meeting, I understood the rule to be that this was a build 2 line plus or minus 2 feet. If it's not that, it shouldn't say it. I don't think it's a good idea to have staff interpret things one way when everyone reads the ordinance and interprets it another way. If it's really minus 2 feet plus infinity feet, it should say that. And I would also say this thing, even when Mr. Solov was describing that when there's 3 houses on a lot, you can have the setback at either one. Well, that makes it sound like it has to be A or B. But it's actually the smaller one as much and minus it as much as you want. Is it not?
That's the understood line of a...
Well,
that's the universally understood line of a setback.
Unless it's been, the property owner shall have the option to match either front yard setback. So what does that mean if there's 2 buildings?
Well, we thought that on 3 houses, there's not a real uniform setback unless they're in one line. For example, if one is up here and one is setback 20 feet, the other is 80 feet, if you use the regular ordinance, which the criticism from the former borough, which has had it for 10 years, was you should throw out the high and low out of the range of your average. So if they're all 20 feet and one's 80 and one's 0 or 10, it skews the average. So if you only have 3, you can't do that. So, and usually on three houses, there's not many blocks in town that only have 3 houses. So we thought of this as an anomaly. That wasn't going to be a big issue.
But if it's a minimum setback, you would just say the minimum. You have to comply with the minimum setback, the smaller of the 2 setbacks. I just don't understand why the language has to be so confusing to someone who's a native English speaker who's technically adept like I am. And I think it's just a big mistake introducing ordinances like this, because you'll get tripped up in council, you get tripped up in the final thing, and it won't pass.
I mean, if we could add minimum, I think it's understood by most sign professionals.
I mean, Jenny had the same confusion too. So, and when you say plus or minus 2 feet, it sounds like it has to be within plus or minus 2 feet. And you're saying it doesn't mean that. You're saying it's minus 2 feet.
There's a minimum setback, if you want to call it a minimum setback, and there's a plus or minus 2 feet because the intent was, why do you need a variance for 1 foot on a front setback when
you only need the variance in one direction?
But that's typical.
You need the variance in one direction, so the plus or minus makes it confusing. Say minus 2 feet.
No, you need it either way. If you're at 6 feet is the average setback, and the person is at 5 feet is their setback.
No, let's do it the other way. Supposing the mean prevailing setback is 6, and you want to build it at 9. Do you need a variance or not?
No.
Okay. It's not clear from the text.
I mean, it's...
Okay. I've made my point. That's number 1. Number 2. I just am totally confused with the way you do the A and B clauses. So there's a thing saying if the mean prevailing front setback is more than 5 feet or less than 6 feet of the required minimum setback. So that means it's exactly 5 feet of the required setback, if I'm trying to interpret it literally. I think what you mean is not within. So why didn't you say it?
Again, it was in the borough for 10 years. We never had an issue with it. It's designed, if the required setback is 25 feet, if the average prevailing is 19, you would need to go to that 19. Conversely, if it was 31, you'd need to go to the 31. The intent was not to reinvent.
A normal English speaker can't understand B and C conditions.
I'll take your point, but that's the first time in 10 years I've heard that comment with the ordinance. But
this is a chance to get it right. Okay, thank you.